what happens in the reactor? We realize that one level of complexity comes in because of a large variation in the shape and structure of foam bubbles, and that variation is so much that if we had to take into account the actual foam structure, the problem would be practically impossible to solve. Incidentally, it happens to be also the conclusion of mathematicians who have attempted to solve the structure of foam for over 500 years maybe or even longer. And it was only in mid 90s that some real progress was made, obviously assisted by computers. But our objective here is to take you from the undergraduate or graduate level to a problem which is a research level problem in order to understand how to think about such and we are a little more ambitious. We won't be happy just doing number crunching. So, it is not that we could take a recourse to writing a very elaborate program and we would be happy with it. Rather, we would want to develop an analytical model where we can have equations properly written, solutions if possible exactly obtained, and somewhere we would have to make a trade off. You must understand the fact that reality is so complex that it is impossible to put it all in the form of equations down to the utmost detail, and as a result there is something in way of saving grace for engineers who among especially mathematicians are perceived as somewhat derogatively as crude animals, incapable of attaining the finesse that is possible in the rigorous mathematical planes. However, what I call this as saving grace is the fact that we deal with really complex problems. We do not work like scientists or mathematicians with isolated systems. We have to deal with the complex real life, and that is forbiddingly difficult. So, realizing this, we are forced to make a certain set of assumptions, and once we have those assumptions made, then we have roughly a picture of our model for reality. So, you have this situation, the actual foam bed reactor, and then you have an idealized foam bed reactor. Idealized foam bed reactor will be imagined with the set of assumptions. With those assumptions, which also imply limitations of these models, we should be able to make some progress and obtain solutions which could be verified against experimental measurements. If we could develop mathematical models which could predict experimental data to within even plus minus 10% or 15%, it would be pretty remarkable. Okay. So, to the extent that we can generically understand what is happening and describe it quantitatively in mathematical equations, the solutions would be able to offer a certain insight, and we want these analytical solutions because then we have an understanding of how the parameters or variables are going to affect the performance. Okay. With the limitations that our assumptions will limit the approximation of this idealized reactor to the real complex reactor, that should be acceptable. Okay. So, it is then possible that with different sets of consistent reasonable assumptions we might get acceptable accuracies. So, here we come to the question of multitude of modeling possibilities. We might have model 1, 2, 3 up to let us say 6 or 8 models, all satisfying our requirement that all predictions should be within a few percent of the experimental measurements. We will have probably some better understanding of what happens. because what assumptions we make, they will dictate the ability of these predictive models to be in agreement of experimental data or not. So, here the validation of the models with experimental data comes to the picture. Okay. So, from that perspective, we are looking at the simplest possible model here, and that I call as a single stage model. Of a foam bed reactor. Now, why do I call this as a single stage model? In the last lecture, if you recall, I had told you that we have one serious problem related to how the liquid returns from the foam section back to the storage section. I repeat again for helping you recall that we split up the entire reactor into two parts. The lower portion, which comprise of the liquid here and the bubbles being sparged through it, we call storage section, and then the height of foam above is the foam section. The liquid is carried by the bubbles upward, because the liquid films have been stabilized by a surfactant or active component of detergent. These films are moving with the air bubbles. So, their air bubbles are taking liquid upwards. At the same time, the gravity is pulling at the liquid. So, the liquid is returning because of this gravity drainage at every height. In addition, there is a rupture here where air leaves the bubbles and the liquid film returns, liquid in the film returns. So, you have now two contributors to the downward flow of liquid. One, the continuous drainage that is happening because of gravity, and second thing, the rupture of films here or foam bubbles, bursting of foam bubbles releases certain amount of liquid, that also is coming down. Okay. Both these parts, drainage from intact films plus the drainage of the ruptured films liquid content, all is coming back to the storage section. We had chosen to represent the flow rate of liquid here in the storage section by letter Q, and we said it is the same flow rate of liquid which is going out of the storage section. So, certain portion comes per time and same flow rate leaves. And then we said that we could probably look at the hydrodynamic steady state, which means not just these flow rates are equal, and therefore, the volume of liquid here in the storage V is a constant, but also we have to worry about this flow rate of liquid going up and the flow rate of liquid coming down, and we said both these are same. So, flows across and the flows being exchanged with the foam section by storage section, they are all balanced. So, looking at that situation and visualizing that the films here become unstable on their own because they are thinned down and any extraneous vibrations could be able to make them rupture, we will have a certain height of foam. So, though that height we call is, let us say, capital H, just the height of foam. Okay. Within this height, the foam bubbles are moving, associated liquid films are moving. Since the liquid is raining, all the films must be thinning. Okay. So, we have actually a pretty difficult spot here to deal with, and it becomes even more sensitive because I have impressed upon your mind the fact that if by any chance convection attends to diffusion, then that contribution becomes really very significant compared to diffusion. Yeah, the liquid is coming down, but there is this problem which I explained to you and I will explain again. I think it is important because I sort of spoke in words at that time. I explained to you the foam structure. If you take a section of the foam section and look at where the bubbles are sharing a film, okay, there we have say film 1, film 2 and film 3. These are the films which are shared by these bubbles, 2 is shared by these adjacent bubbles, 1 is shared by these 2 bubbles, and this is shared by the bubble here and the bubble here. Okay. So, every film is shared by 2 bubbles. So, these are the films 1, 2, 3. Where these films meet together, that is a Plato border. So, that is Plato border. This is the curvilinear region here. Okay. This is the region, curvilinear region, which is Plato border. According to Plato's laws, 4 and only 4 such Plato borders meet together. Please remember, this is only a section in these 2 dimensions. Actually, this film is extending upwards out of the plane, downwards below the plane of this board, and so on. Plato border also is a 3-dimensional object with this cross section. It has a certain length. Okay. So, these sort of sections of pipe with the curvilinear extremity, they join together at a single junction, and they do so at the tetrahedral angle. Okay. So, we have Plato borders and we have films. If at any height, even at the top, if you are looking at foam, looking down at foam, you would see some films, they have flatter portions, and those films will be peripherally joining other films into Plato borders. Okay. And imagine this top layer of films suddenly burst, they form and then burst. Then all the liquid content will be released more or less uniformly there at the top of the next layer of foam bubbles, and that liquid will come down by gravity, and we had addressed that question, where does the liquid come down, and we had proved that it was through Plato borders, and we had, if you recall, let us call it A, say B at the center here, and say C in the planar region of the film. Okay. If you look at the pressure difference between the bubble and this flatter region of the film, you will be asking what is P A minus P C, this point and this point within the film, and this will be 2 gamma by the radius of curvature, but the planar film here will mean infinite radius. A sphere or circle of infinite radius will have this as the boundary. So, this is actually infinity, and once you have infinity in denominator, that means this is equal to 0, which means P A and P C are equal. So, let us call it equality of P A and P C. Is that clear? Next, we might want to know what is the difference between the pressure in this bubble, in the interior of this bubble, and the center of Plato border, that is P A and P B. So, you could write P A minus P B as equal to same way 2 gamma by the radius of curvature, which now is not infinity. This is the curvature, you get that? This is the radius of curvature. So, I can construct a circle in this plane with this as the boundary, and radius of that circle will be finite. So, this is finite now, this radius of curvature is finite. Gamma is surface tension, R C is a positive radius. So, the whole thing is a positive quantity, so greater than 0, which means P A is greater than P B, right. P A is equal to P C, we had proved here P A is equal to P C. Now, we are saying P A is greater than P B, which means P C must be greater than P B. That is the reason if I put liquid on top of this part, the liquid will sense pressure here higher than here, and it will prefer to flow from the region of lower pressure. Always it is the path of least resistance, like most of you take. you will flow along the path of least resistance. So, liquid will flow preferentially through plateau borders. Now, if you calculate, the films are meeting here, most of the surface of film is planar, and this region has very little thickness and therefore area. So, it turns out if you estimate the area of the curved portion against the flat portion, it will be several orders of magnitude smaller. I once calculated that, and I think I recall it was to the tune of 6 orders. So, the area of the films is much larger than the area of plateau borders. So, what is the implication of this? Implication means plateau borders all taken together contribute very little to the total area. So, if you were to think of gas absorption, the absorption taking place in these plateau borders will be negligible, because they have so little area facing gas. The films will be primarily absorbing gas. The portion of films which is not shared, the flat region, will primarily absorb gas. So, here is a kind of division of labor. So, to say, the plateau borders serve the role of bringing the liquid down. Okay. The films absorb the solute or vapor, okay. And where the liquid is flowing, there is very little absorption. So, it suits us. I mean, most often the reality presents greater challenges. Sometimes nature helps a modeler. So, here it is helping, okay. Which also tells you something very important, and that is, if you look at the levels of convection or the levels of intensities of convection, here is the greatest action. Liquid is rushing through the plateau borders, and plateau borders do not have walls except surfactant layers, monolayers. So, not much resistance is there. So, liquid is freely flowing through this region. Does it mean that there is no movement within the liquid in the flatter region of films? That may be the question. We have imagined, and I worded it this way, that as a result of gravity drainage, the films will become thinner and thinner as you go towards the top. If the films have to thin down, that means they must be draining their liquid. So, how does that drainage take place? It will take place from the flatter regions into the curved region. Not only the extra liquid which is being poured, which we will prefer to go through this, we have this films thinning down and draining their liquid into the plateau borders. So, plateau borders are kind of sinks which are taking liquid from however it comes, whether from films or you add some liquid or the liquid comes from rupture of the foam bubbles at the top, etc. Everything flows down this. But the fact that the films are becoming thinner, that means there is certain amount of convection here. And I had warned you, wherever there is, beware convection, wherever there is convection, you have to worry about it. And now I am contradicting myself. I am saying that if I have to take convection together with the complexity of foam structure, we might as well forget about solving this problem. It might be too difficult. Okay. You could do it computationally, but that was not our purpose. So, I am saying now there will be little amount of convection because of film thinning. Okay. Now, it turns out that we may have to look at how best to salvage this situation. Okay. One could, for instance, maybe I can rub this off all. You got this? We may ask, what do we have to deal with in practice? What kind of physico-chemical systems we have to deal with? We might have variety of gases to absorb and correspondingly variety of solvents. Some solvents might be very viscous, others might be inviscid, practically inviscid. And if you look at this whole range of viscosities of liquids, we suspect that how the liquid hold up profile, volume fraction of liquid, that is the volume of liquid per unit volume of foam, how it would vary with the height of foam starting from the top of the storage section, the liquid pool. In the liquid pool also, you might want to know what kind of liquid hold up we have. In the short storage section, we may call as a very short bubble column the liquid hold up, which we will designate by this letter epsilon. In the storage section, will be approximately 0.87. If you measure the air content in the aquarium where the bubbles are rising, you would have about 87% liquid, about 13% air in terms of volume per unit volume. So, this epsilon we define as the volume of liquid, say small v of liquid, by the volume of foam. So, if I take 1 cc of foam, I will have epsilon cc of the liquid, or 1 cc of storage, I will have epsilon storage as the liquid fraction. Okay. Now, let me just draw the foam portion. Okay. Let us say this is the foam section, below is storage. Storage as this 87% liquid. If you actually conduct this experiment, and I will probably invite you to see it sometime in the lab, the bubbles in the storage section are more or less spherical, like they may be deformed, but they are oscillating around the spherical structure. Whereas, when they come out from here, they become polyhedral. With all their flat films and so on, immediate. The moment the bubble emerges out of storage section, it deforms. Liquid here in the foam section is on the average maybe about 3%. 0.03, 3% or lesser. And you could understand that if the storage has something like 87% of liquid and it is dropping to something about 3% or lower in most of the foam, there must be some region here in the foam where the liquid holdup will be substantially larger than 3%, because you have to understand that everything in nature is more or less continuous, except the shape change. The volume does not change much, but liquid holdup also immediately changes. But within the foam, the gravity drainage will reduce the value close to about 87% to about 3% in certain distance. So, now it is here that you could conduct experiments for foam made of very viscous liquids on as an extreme and inviscid liquids as the more practical occurrence. Okay. For that you require some special instruments. It takes little time, because the deformation you can see visually. Obviously, it will also take certain amount of time, that is the time of ascent of bubble. So, if you compare the time scale of rise of bubble through its diameter, during that time the shape changes so quickly, you can see that. Liquid holdup on the other hand will change slower. So, what special equipment you require or instrument you require is a gamma ray spectrophotometer. So, what you do is basically you shine gamma rays from one side and you have a detector here measuring the intensity of gamma rays on the other side, and then you can put it on a platform. This is the source, this is the detector, and you can move it up and down wherever you want. So, experiments were done with different positions of these source and detector, and therefore, the liquid holdups were actually measured as a function of height. So, what do you expect to get? Suppose I were to plot epsilon as liquid holdup in foam versus z, which is 0 at the storage section here, and say top of the height of foam, which is h. This total height is h. When the liquids are viscous, maybe glycerol solutions or solutions of CMC, carboxymethyl cellulose, which imparts large viscosity to aqueous solutions. The liquid hold up tends to drop gradually as the height increases. So, it varies somewhat like this gradually. This is for very viscous liquids, gradual drop in the liquid hold up as you go from the storage section up to the top of the column, slowly dropping. If you take inviscid liquids like aqueous solutions, dilute sodium hydroxide solutions, etc., then the liquid hold up drops very sharply. And this height where the drop in the liquid hold up happens, major liquid hold up drop happens, this is experimentally for inviscid systems very short, 3-4 centimeters. The total height of foam may be half a meter or meter. So, you have this fortunate circumstances that the variation of liquid hold up, sharp variation happens in a short distance, and then for most part the liquid hold up in the foam becomes almost constant, and the liquid hold up is directly related to the Plato border thickness and film thickness. If you assign all the liquid content to the films, it means for majority of the foam section, the thickness of the film, foam film is practically constant. Now, we here say about 3-4 centimeters, there is a sharp variation. Beyond that, say rest of the height of the column 42 centimeters or whatever 97 centimeters, you will have foam films practically constant in thickness. Water, aqueous solutions, dilute solutions can be taken as inviscid, and this is like water, this will be some polymeric solutions or glycerol. Recall that we were looking at oxidation of sodium sulphide. Sodium sulphide solutions in aqueous phase fall in this category. So, we are lucky here. What we do is, we have two options here. What you could do is, you could actually measure this liquid hold up profile and then say what is the best way to deal with it. I have this 1 meter tall foam section. In first 3-4 centimeters major liquid hold up variation happens, rest of it is having constant liquid hold up. So, presumably constant film thicknesses, right. So, what it means is, constancy is for the purpose of seeing what is approximate picture. Since the gravity will continue to act, the films thin down, but the rate of thinning in this portion over here will be very small. So, it will be like first few centimeters thickness becomes rapidly small, then it becomes smaller, but at a very low rate, right. So, if we take a rigorous view here, one could say that I can split this entire foam section into number of sections of my choice, okay. And I take this actual variation of the liquid hold up and I say that within each of these subsections the hold up is constant, but from one section to another section it changes and changes as a step, you get that. So, the actual thickness is varying continuously. What I do is I construct a staircase around this curve of thickness versus distance, and I say this staircase is approximating the actual curve. This we often do, right. So, what we are saying, I think I will show you, I need to epsilon in foam versus height 0 h. Okay. The actual hold up profile will be somewhat like this, let us say, somewhat blown up. Okay. What I do is, and this is a very small value, constant value throughout. So, what I do is I say I split this entire height into these subsections along the height of foam, and within this I say the liquid hold up is constant, it is constant here, it is constant here, it is constant here, etc. So, instead of letting it change continuously, I say that for a certain height of foam it remains constant, then it drops in a step, then remains constant, and so on. So, I have now this set of steps or staircase of constant thicknesses. So, now we part way with how it happens, but we say that okay, the actual thickness is varying gradually continuously, but we can take it as subsections with constant height and decreasing constant thickness and decreasing thicknesses, right. So, now there is one more thing, since the variation is mostly in the few centimeters and then the variation is very little, this might allow us to investigate the neglect of convection. You get my point? If the thickness is varying slowly, potentially convection is negligible, even though we never want to neglect the role of convection. Let us say we check it out, let us say we neglect convection, because that makes life simpler. If we neglect convection, then the problem is one of diffusion. We are in the comfort zone. What we can do is we can take this series of films of different thicknesses and within each section analyze the problem of diffusion and chemical reaction. Okay. Now, we come to, so this will be n stage model, number of sections which will approximate this profile, and one might even ask the question how tall each section is, and our answer to that is at the experimental precision level, each section can be as thick as the foam bubble layer. One layer of foam bubble, next layer of foam bubbles and so on, something like, yeah, it is the same thing. If you make those, in fact because this is a discontinuous phase, you can't have dimensions smaller than foam bubble thickness, but if that is small enough compared to the height of foam, then this staircase is going to approximate the curve. Area under this staircase will be almost equal to area under the curve. Okay. It is only a visual recollection of similarity with integration, right. In that case, you will require the steps to be infinitesimally small, so that the staircase exactly merges with the curve eventually, right. Here the limit is you can't go to a size smaller than foam bubble. Okay. That may be one way, but that will require this detailed measurement of liquid hold up every time, and this is not very easy. Making use of gamma ray spectrophotometer with radioactivity is not very convenient, and we are engineers and we set our objective right away. We want to be accurate to within plus minus 10%, maybe plus minus 15%. Convection, now we are ready to ignore. Then we suddenly become very bold and say, forget about these first 3-4 centimeters. I will take this entire liquid hold up and treat it as a foam of average thickness. So, now you actually integrate the liquid hold up over the entire height, you will get average. If you want to go from this gamma ray spectrophotometric measurements, you could do that. Alternatively, what we could do is very simple. At the junction of the storage section and foam section, that is here, you attach a manometer. You know what a manometer is? A U-tube manometer filled with, or an inclined manometer filled with liquid, maybe water itself, and you measure the height, measure the hydrostatic head exerted by this height of foam over here. From there you can calculate liquid hold up, and that will be analog answer to your quest for average liquid hold up. Epsilon bar can be obtained by a manometer, very simple, no radioactivity, no gamma ray spectrophotometry, nothing, and you can get average thickness. So, now presumably we have really simplified our problem, in which we say there is a storage section and there is a foam section. Foam section has whatever idealized structure of foam bubbles, and all films, all liquid is contained in films of constant thickness. Now, we only need to analyze how the gas is absorbed into these shared liquid films from adjacent bubbles, not even all bubbles, just one pair of bubbles which is starting from the interface of storage and foam section, bottom to the top. And it turns out, if you say bubbles are same size, same shape, they contain same concentration and film is sandwiched between them, I can slice this film at the mid plane or in the middle, and then I have a half film and one gas pocket. Everything else is a replication of this in my idealized model of foam. So, I will have probably billions of these half films and one gas pocket, but everything is symmetric. If I analyze one half flat liquid film in which convection is neglected, so it can be treated as rigid, in which diffusion happens and chemical reaction happens, I have probably solved the crux of problem. Then rest will be only taking account of all the bubbles together, and that is exactly coming down to the third year level. That is where we had left some time back. How to analyze diffusion with chemical reaction in a film of finite thickness, for which I told you that Laplace transforms will be hard to invert, and so I truncated that assignment, allowed you to submit only Laplace transform solutions. I will have now opportunity to come to that model and also present the solution, and then you will learn how to even invert Laplace transform for this finite film thickness. Okay. So, several objectives are being met together. We can stop here for today.